to the first ever viewing of CJ's live video thread. And to all the 3 people that are watching, I'd like for you to drop a like, share, or even send a comment. Thanks to all who will go ahead and do that here as well. And today's video is going to be a breakdown of the Miami Dolphins' first pick in the 2021 draft. First off, we're going to go through the picks here ahead of us and go ahead and kind of see what's going to be left on the table here and see how I think it's going to break down. So first off, we're going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're on the clock at number 1. I think this is a no-brainer. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the pick, the QB from Clemson. He's been the number 1 pick projection for the last probably 4 years, even going back to high school when he was won the Gatorade Player of the Year as well. When he's been battling Tua for those ranks in high school, but he's been the clear alpha with this group here. Then you got the New York Jets, who are on the clock. I think this is also kind of already solidified to be Zach Wilson, QB from BYU. I don't think there's going to be any surprises on the top of the draft. And then here we are at the number 3 pick with the San Francisco 49ers. This is the pick that the Dolphins did trade as well. And when those 49ers made that move like this, and they sacrificed next year's first round pick as well, it makes sense that it has to be a quarterback. I don't see anything else playing out any other scenarios. You're not gonna give away draft capital to get a tight end, receiver, or anybody else besides at that point. I'm sure they do need some other holes. They could definitely need, but I do think the pick's going to be a quarterback. In regards to who's going to be the quarterback, that's still kind of the unknown. But we'll just put quarterback for the sake here as well, because it'll kind of help explain the rest of the draft here. The best case scenario for the Miami Dolphins is if San Francisco did draft Mac Jones. I did hear we've been reading some buzz here lately about how Kyle Shanahan has a lot of interest in him. This would be the best case scenario if they were to draft Mac Jones. I'm not saying that he's a bad quarterback. I'm just saying that's going to be the best case scenario for us, because that means that we have Trey Lance and Justin Fields left on the board. And those 2 quarterbacks have probably the most upside. Well, I guess maybe not the most upside, but they got the most buzz right now. Or they got kid from Trey Lance, kid from North Dakota State. He's an exciting prospect. I don't think a lot of people know what we're going to get out of him at this moment. And then you got Justin Fields, who's just a monster. I think he's going to be the sleeper of the draft. Might be the best quarterback of the draft, but we'll see how it plays out. But if let's just say San Francisco did take Mac Jones, then you got the 4th overall pick would be the Atlanta Falcons slated. There's a lot of holes for them. They do got Matt Ryan's for the next 2 years, and they're paying him for a pretty good chunk. So I don't necessarily see them taking a quarterback now. They could still do that. Another thing that we haven't really talked about here is the 2022 draft. I was looking at doing just a couple research on that here, looking at the Heisman candidates, and the quarterback class next year is very weak. And I think a lot of the general managers know that, especially if they need a quarterback now, they'll sacrifice a little bit more, knowing to get their hands on one of these guys. Justin Fields, if he stayed at Ohio State for another year, there's no doubt in my mind he'd be the number 1 pick next year, if that was the case. And he's going to be, they have. I was looking at the Heisman candidates that they had. They got a Spencer Rattler, the guy from Oklahoma. He's going to be a sophomore. He did look okay, pretty promising as a freshman. I did read some about Emory Jones, quarterback from Florida. I just don't see him being an NFL quarterback. And there's just a couple other people down the list here that just don't. We'll have to kind of see what shakes out here in regards to that. But so, anyways, we're going back to the Falcons pick. Um, I think there's going to be a lot of teams wanting to trade up into the spot. This is the spot that you want to trade to get a quarterback, and I think the Falcons are going to be willing to move on and to get more capital because they have a lot of holes. They got a lot of holes in their team. Obviously they got the two receivers are probably and their tight end. Hayden Hurst. You got Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. They could use some offensive line help. The defense was atrocious last year, so I'm sure they need help on defense. It's a little early for a defensive player, I think, at 4, but Patrick Surtain could still be an option. But I do ultimately think that they're going to trade the pick, and that the top 4 picks of this year's draft is going to be quarterback. There's going to be 4 quarterbacks taken in the first 4 picks. And then if let's just say they don't, I think it's Penny Sewell. I think Penny Sewell is a good option for them at tackle. They could definitely use some help in regards to that area. And then we'll move on to the Bengals at 5. We've heard a lot of buzz that Joe Burrow wants Jamar Chase, and he wants the pass catchers. Obviously they want the new shiny object. Everyone wants the new shiny object, but I don't think that's possible with this scenario. I did see a recent picture of him posing. I don't know if it's for whatever it was. He did take a picture, in his all Bengals gear, and he had his knee exposed. And I saw his basically he had, Joe Burrow had surgery last year on his torn ACL, and you could see the scarring pretty visible and in regards to that picture. And I think that picture alone is a tall tale sign of what we're going to get here at this 5th overall pick. If they don't, I don't understand how they would take anybody else besides Penny Sewell, the best offensive lineman in this year's draft. There's no questions about it. He did opt out last year, but he's just a beast of the line. And let's just say, like I said, I don't, unless the Falcons take him at 4, still don't think that's happening. But so I think you got 4 QBs, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 would be the Bengals taking Sewell. If you're going to have a franchise quarterback and invest it into him, you're not wanting him to get sacked as much times as he did last year. And the ACL is very fragile, and we got to protect that ACL. And I think it's a no-brainer that they go Sewell. And that's going to leave us at 6 to the Miami Dolphins. Aloha. So we're this is the best case scenario for us. Like I said, if they go 4 quarterbacks, Sewell, that means we get the pick of who we want. The 2 pass catchers that are on the table is Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts. In my opinion, I go back and forth on what we're wanting to do at this time. But I pull up the depth chart here, and then we look at the depth chart and the signings of the recent that we recently made. We have at receiver. We'll just break down the receiver position. We do have that new addition of Will Fuller and Robert Foster. Those are 2. We signed 2 receivers and Alan Hearns, I guess you could say too, because he's coming back from the opt-out that he did. That he opted out last year for. So we basically got 3 new receivers coming into the mix. So that makes me think that we're probably somewhat satisfied at our receiver position in regards to that. And one thing here that, we got to look at is that, what Chris Greer and Coach Flores likes to do is they like that competition at all positions. So that when we're looking at the draft, if you look at the past of what they like to do, they're going to draft best player available. No ifs, ands, or buts. If Sewell is their best player and he's there at 6, they're taking Sewell. Now, obviously, they're committed to Tua, so I don't see any quarterbacks But if they have, let's just say they have somebody else out there, on their list that's ahead of these guys. Like I said, the we want, as a fan, I think we want, we always want running backs and receivers because that's what we like, But if it's a defensive tackle that's high on their board, they're going to take him. If he's the number one player on their board, they're going to take him. And which is perfectly fine. And like I said, that's why we got to look at the depth chart. Right now we got Devontae Parker on the outside and Will Fuller. It's a pretty deadly combo. We're not going to get, upgrading that position here. Will Fuller's I know he's on, I think he's only on a 1-year deal. Devontae Parker, we've seen what he can do. I'm a big fan of Devontae Parker. I have been for quite some time. And then behind him, we got Lynn Bowden, which was a great trade that we did. He was a 3rd-round pick. We got him from the Raiders, and he performed well. And he actually connected. He connected with Tua late in the stretch, I think, a lot. He's going to be a great addition. I think he's going to be a good slot player, number 3 receiver. I don't think anyone's taken his position because he's very talented. Then we got Preston Williams as well. Preston Williams is coming back off of a surgery. We'll see how he does. We got Jakeem Grant and Alan Hearns. We did re-sign Matt Collins, but we know what we're getting out of those guys. Jakeem Grant is an interesting one because I'm not too sure what to think of him. He might be the odd man out of this rotation because he might be cut. We might have too many receivers on the roster as it is. Someone's going to get cut, and for some reason, I have a funny feeling it's him, just because he just doesn't seem like a good fit for. I mean, he's great in special teams, but I don't think that matters too much to coach. I mean, obviously it matters, but I think it's the punt returning could be very. Anyone could return punts, I think, for what Coach Flores wants as well. He wants a nice, sure-handed catcher, just get positive yards and move on and move to the offense. That's kind of how I feel. And then you look at, we look at the tight end, offensive line. Do a quick little summary of the offensive lineman. We did have a new addition here. We just did a trade here we signed, actually not a trade. We signed DJ Fluker. He starting tackle for the Ravens last year. He's very good. I saw something about some crazy stats about his penalties. He's very, very good in regards to that. One of the least penalized to tackle. So we're going to have a lot of competition offensive line. So that's basically, between Fluker, we did sign Matt Skura, he's the center, and they got projected. And we did sign another guy too. I can't think of his name. Adam Packney. Yep, that's who it is, Adam Packney. And then so we're gonna have a lot of competition there. And so it's gonna be a revamped offensive line. We're still growing. We spent a lot of capital last year. We got Austin Jackson as our first overall pick. Robert Hunt was another 2nd-round pick, and then Solomon Kinley. I think he played terrific last year as well. He was a 4th-round overall pick. And then you got our tight end group. Our tight end group is interesting. We had a record year for tight ends. Very kind of an underrated group in that position. Durham Smythe, a very solid tight end. Gesicki. Gesicki, he impressed me a lot last year. He could go catch the ball. He's got a good, pretty wide span on him as well. And then, like you said, we're not going to get too much in the defense side here. We can. There's one thing that I kind of want to note is that the Kyle Van Noy, him leaving, does kind of leave a little bit of room left in that position. So I do see us taking a linebacker. We do need some linebacker outside rush, and we're going to speak to an individual here a little bit about that here that I'd like to see if everything kind of did follows. It doesn't follow my projections. And let's say Pitts and Chase are off the board. I think we have an option to go defensive player at that spot. So let's going to go ahead and dive right into each player here and why I think we should draft him. So like I said, Chase, Jamar Chase, receiver. He ran a 4.34. Guy's lightning fast. I mean, as a freshman with Joe Burrow, he absolutely just crushed it. This guy's got he's got a nice wingspan. He could go up and catch the ball here as well, and he's very promising and a ton of upside. I do think he's the best receiver out of the group. Devontae Smith has got, he's got a lot of, he broke a lot of records, or Devontae Smith, he's broke a lot of records there in Alabama, and he was just crushing it. But he weighed 166 pounds, and that really kind of threw me off of him. I just don't think it's an NFL body type that I want to draft at 6 anyways. At 18, now by all means, let's take a gamble on 18. But at 6, I want someone a little bit more polished. So Jamar Chase would be the pick for me if we wanted to go receiver route. But I do think for offensive purposes, the best player available, that best pass catcher that I want to see is Kyle Pitts. At first, when I was looking at Kyle Pitts, I was like, I've watched, as living in Jacksonville, I do watch a lot of Gator games, unfortunately, because that's a lot of buzz around here. But he's very talented. He's a very talented tight end. When I first was looking at and researching here, I was looking at the 6th overall pick, and it's like, there's no way we could draft a tight end at that time, this high. It kind of goes against what we're doing, and how Flores and Greer are kind of building their team, and financially, to pay the number 6 overall pick in a tight end at that price doesn't make a lot of sense. But after kind of reviewing it and looking at it and just watching more film of him, this guy's he's the best pass catcher in this draft, hands down. I mean, he's 6'6", 245, and ran a 4.44. All right, I'm going to repeat that. 6'6", 245, 4.44. That 4.44 is insane. I think he was like almost broke the record for tight ends at the fastest 40. I think there was only Evan Ingram was the one who has the fastest one at 4.42. But I mean, 6'6", 245 running a 4.44 is insane. And he's faster than half the receivers out there. He's faster than Devontae Parker. I guess that's not really saying too much, but Justin Jefferson had Calvin Ridley. He ran a faster 40 time than those guys. But the more I look at it, the more I think about it, we're not drafting Kyle Pitts to be a tight end. It just doesn't make sense. His blocking does need improvement to be a tight end. But we're not, like I said, we're not drafting him to block. We're not drafting him to be a tight end. We're drafting him to be basically Kyle Pitts. And that guy is a machine. He's going to be a matchup nightmare. And that's what we want. We want matchup nightmares. That's all we want to do is create that mismatch so that it allows even other positions to thrive, or to double team and then let Will Fuller be on the outside alone, Devontae Parker, or even it's going to help. It's going to help. I mean, as him being a poor, let's just say, I mean, he's about an average, average blocking tight end. Obviously, I think he's going to probably definitely be able to improve that early in his career, because that's what I'm sure he's mostly going to have to do at times. But putting him as a decoy to block, or even the guy's 6'6", 245, he's going to be able to block cornerbacks and linebackers. I mean, he's going to figure a way to do that. So I do think he's the dream pick, this moment. And this is what we want to see. And then I'm going to go back to the best defensive player on the board, and he just reminds me of everything that kind of we just talked about, as well as um, what the team wants in defense. The team wants players to be interchangeable at any position, and Micah Parsons is kind of the same. Same. He's a little bit shorter, but he's 246, 439. 246, 439. Guy, 439. Guy's an edge. The edge is the edge. He's an edge rusher, linebacker. He could do it all. He's going to be able to do everything that we want. He's going to be. He could drop back in coverage. He could play the run. He could get the quarterback. He did sit out, so he's a little bit fresh, but he's so interchangeable that it's like exciting. I don't think he's gonna be like an upgrade to Kyle Van Noy, and Kyle Van Noy had a great season with us. So I do like him a lot. I do think if everything kind of falls away, I'm sure he's very high on our board, and man, I'd like to get my hands on him at 18. If it falls, I doubt he goes that late, but so I mean, like I said, so the dream scenario would be kind of Pitts, number one for me. Two, I still think Jamar Chase would be the pick for what we want to do, because right now we need to focus on Tua and the offense. Our defense played great last year, and I think I know we lost. We didn't really lose much, and we gained a couple players, but I think we'll be fine on defense again. So I think Pitts, Chase. I still think if Sewell's available, I think you almost have to take him just because of like I said, best player available. He's going to be he's up there. He's, like I said, he's the best defensive lineman. He's the best lineman out there, period, on both sides of the ball. So he needs to be considered there. But then I think Micah Parsons. So I wouldn't be shocked if Micah Parsons was the pick, because like I said, this guy is like fits everything that Flores wants. And being a defensive minded coach, I wouldn't be surprised if we take a shot on him early. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for the view.